I'm Jill Hasday. I'm a professor at the University of Minnesota Law School. I just wrote a new book called Intimate Lies in the Law. It examines deception in dating, sex, marriage, and family life and explores the law's response to it, which is usually to deny remedies to deceived intimates and protect their deceivers. By deception, I mean intentional behavior. Could be conduct, silence, speech, designed to make another person believe something the deceiver thinks is untrue. Lies are probably the kind of deception that springs first to mind, but there are many other kinds of deception as well. For instance, deliberate omissions designed to mislead are probably more common than lies and can perform the same function. Deception is very common within intimacy, and one reason is that people can capture tremendous advantages by deceiving their intimates. So people deceive to lure someone into a relationship or to keep her from leaving. They dupe someone into marriage so they have an opportunity to acquire legal rights and privileges that are otherwise not available to them, like legal immigration. They deceive to take advantage of their intimates financially or sexually. They deceive to dominate their intimates or to resist domination, or they deceive their intimate because they're deceiving someone else or everyone else and need to maintain the facade they've created. Courts love to blame people for having been fooled, and it's easy in retrospect to say you should have investigated and discovered because events tend to look more obvious when we know what happened. But detecting deception can be extremely difficult, even for a person of ordinary or above average intelligence and sophistication. First, most of us have much less ability to spot deception than we would like to believe, and identifying a deceptive intimate can be especially difficult. Second, strong social norms urge us to trust our intimates and not investigate them. Third, even if we would like to investigate, it's hard to accomplish that investigation without the investigation itself jeopardizing the relationship because the person finds out about it. There's practical obstacles to investigating without the person discovering it. If you look through someone's garbage, they may spot you. There's also legal obstacles to investigating without consent. There are laws against perusing someone's tax returns or credit reports or emails, and for good reason. So one irony is that courts tend to blame intimates for being duped, but the law itself can make discovering deception much more difficult. Deception pervades intimacy, and the potential topics really are innumerable. They range from fidelity to finances, from marital status to military service to anything else you could imagine. As I've been working on this project, people have asked me, what kind of deception surprises you? When I started, I would be surprised. This person has a secret second family? At this point, nothing surprises me anymore. People deceive each other about anything and everything. Anything someone cares about in a relationship can be the subject of intimate deception. In general, the law is not interested in helping people deceive within an intimate relationship and is much more focused on protecting their deceivers. So courts and legislatures will routinely deny deceived intimates access to the remedies that are available to people deceived in other contexts. We're living in an era that celebrates marriage and intimacy. If you think about the marriage equality movement, odes to marriage abounded. That's just not the case here. Courts take it as common sense that deception pervades romance, sex, and marriage, and they assume as given that they shouldn't disrupt that status quo. When courts assume that harmful deception is an ordinary and expected part of intimacy, they help make that so. They're normalizing the deception by protecting it from legal condemnation or legal redress. I think the law should be more interested in helping people deceive within intimacy and less worried about protecting their deceivers. So I think courts should start with a rebuttable presumption that someone deceived within intimacy will have access to the same remedies she would have if she was deceived outside of an intimate relationship. I think courts and legislatures can also do a better job of regulating intimate deception before litigation begins. So they should look for opportunities to help people discover that they're being duped, where that can be accomplished without jeopardizing privacy, liberty, or security. They should also try to counter the incentives to deceive. And they should limit the harm that a duplicitous person can accomplish without their intimate's knowledge. Why is it hard to discover deception? There's a lot of reasons. One is we want to trust our intimates, right? And also, generally, intimate deception is things that we want to believe are true. Who wants to believe that their husband has a secret second family or is draining the family bank account, right? You want to believe in fidelity. You want to believe everything they're telling you is true, and that definitely helps. The point of my book is not that people shouldn't trust their intimates. That would be tragic, right? All these bonds of trust help society flourish. That's why we have social norms against investigation. They just make it easier to get away with deception. I have a lot of different categories of deception, and one of the categories I call Linchpin deception, which is basically they're deceiving you because otherwise they can't have the relationship. So it could be you're concealing an affair, or it depends on the relationship. They're concealing something. Why do they do it? So there's a few reasons. One, they think it's not going to come out, which could be more or less plausible depending on the lie. So for instance, sometimes people will present themselves as never married when they're divorced. If that ex-husband doesn't show up, you might get away with it. But another reason is because they think that by the time the deception comes out, you'll be locked in, or you'll realize how wonderful I am and you won't care anymore. So for instance, I talk in the book about a man who has a dating guide, and he admits in the dating guide that he concealed that he was a smoker because he knew the women wouldn't want to date him if they knew he smoked. But he says, I'm not worried because once they start dating me and realize all my other wonderful attributes, they won't care. A less sort of harsher example is sometimes people discover they've been duped, but at that point they have children with the deceiver, right? They're financially interdependent. It's very hard, right? I mean, people do leave, but it can be very difficult because you're so enmeshed. If you are a novelist and you are looking for a plot, there are 10,000 novel plots in this book. I mean, each story is a novel plot. If you are someone who needs help coming up with some good plots, when you actually look at almost every movie or song or television show or novel, intimate deception drives the plot. If you think about most novels, intimate deception drives the plot. Some big secret that someone is keeping, and then once you discover it, it changed your life, intimate deception drives the plot. What I think is interesting is it's so pervasive and people realize there's so much harm, but I think in part because the law hasn't been interested in countering it, people sort of assume that nothing can be done. So for instance, someone tells you, we're going to get married, leave your job, move in with me. You quit your job, you sell your house at a loss, you move in. Turns out he's already married to someone else. These are actual cases. Or, he's already engaged to someone else. He's kept a large secret that you wouldn't have done. You can leave, but that doesn't get you your house back. That doesn't get you your job back, right? You have damages. Or similarly, if you think about infidelity, one thing I learned writing this book is that infidelity is often tied to tremendous financial loss. Having an affair is very expensive. So you can leave, but you don't get back the $600,000 he spent on his girlfriend or on all the trips, or in general, deception within a marriage, even if it's financial deception, which is normally what the courts are most interested in, they refuse to provide a remedy. One of the pushes for the book is to say, if you would ordinarily have a remedy when someone is deceiving you to drain your finances, the mere fact that you're in an intimate relationship shouldn't stop that. One thing I love about this book is I've been able to talk about this book to everyone, because you don't have to be a professor. This is accessible to everyone because everyone's had the experience. It's also interesting, as I've been working on the book, I mean, so many people have had significant deception in their lives, which the only reason I know is because if you're writing a book called Intimate Lies in the Law, people tend to tell you, right? So a few people have confessed to deception, but much less than being deceived.